I want to show you how you can calculate the present value of a stream of cash flows when the interest rate changes. Now, doing it in Excel is really a great way to do it, not only because you can change the interest rate quite easily, but you can also see how the calculations are done. It's much easier to do the calculations this way. If you have to do it by hand, it's much more tedious. You have a lot of calculations to do. Now, what I'm going to assume here is that we have these cash flows from year 1 to year 10, and they're just going to be $100 each year. And I'm going to assume that the interest rate is 8% for the first 3 years, and then it becomes 12% from years 4 through 10. Now, a common mistake that students make is they discount the first 3 cash flows at the 8% interest rate, and then they discount the last 7 cash flows at 12%. And that's not really correct. What you need to do is calculate the cash flows using the 8% interest rate for the first 3 periods, and then in period 4, you're going to have 3 years of 8% interest and then 1 year of 12% interest. So we have to put in a calculation here, or a formula into the spreadsheet in order to do this. So what's the calculation for present value? For the first 3 periods, it's quite easy. It's what we usually use. It's going to be 1 divided by 1 plus the interest rate. The interest rate is in cell B1, and I'm going to put a $sign in so when I copy the formula down, nothing changes. And it's going to be raised to the power that's based on what year it is. So in this case, I want to raise it to the first power, second power, third power. So I want to put in a cell there, A7, and I don't want to put a $sign in because when I copy it down, I want it to change to cell A8 so that it squares it, etc. And I can copy this down for the first 3 periods. Now for period 4, again, what's common I've found with students is they want to discount this cash flow by 12% for all 4 periods, but that's not correct because the first 3 years you only had an interest rate of 8%. So we have to put 2 numbers in here. So we're going to put a formula in that says 1 divided by 1 plus the interest rate that's in B1 raised to the third power, okay, times 1 divided by 1 plus the interest rate that's in cell B2, $2, and we want to raise this not to the 4th power, but to the first power. Remember, you're going to get 3 years of 8% and then 1 year of 12%. So we should put this in as raised to the power of, let's see if I can get this right, what's in cell A10 minus 3. Okay, so that means, and hopefully I've put in enough parentheses to get some numbers, that means that this is discounted by 1.08 to the third power times 1 over 1.08 to the, let me say that again. This is discounted by 1 over 1.08 to the third power times 1 over 1.12 to the first power. And because I put a formula in, this is going to copy down to here, and so this should be to the second power, to the third power, etc. So I should be able to copy this down. If I've done this correctly, the numbers do get smaller. Let me just fix those decimal places so it looks uniform. Okay, and now the present value of these cash flows will just be the present value factor multiplied by this number here. So let's see here. This would be equal to B7 times C7 just copy the formula down, and we'll just sum it up. And so we get $620. Now, if we discounted everything by 8% or 12%, we should get different numbers. So let's see. PV at 8%, let's just do it at 8% first. So this is going to be equal to, and I'll just put it in as one number here. In fact, I'll use the formula, present value factor. So the rate is in B1, so I'm going to use the function that Excel gives us, and the number of periods is in A7, and there's no payment, so I can put a 0 in there, and the future value is going to be in B7. And so you'll notice I get the same numbers here. And let me just copy that down. Oops, I made a mistake. What did I do wrong? I forgot to put a $sign in here, so it was moving the formula. So let me redo that. And here we have a present value. And again, if you've used Excel before, you know that it gives you the opposite sign. If you put in future value is positive, present value is going to be negative. Now, if I want to put this in as at 12%, we should get a smaller number than 620 because we're discounting by a higher interest rate. So let's see what we have here. Let's use the function again, PV, and the rate is in cell B. And this time I'm going to try and remember to put the $sign in. The number of periods is in B7. There's no payment. And the future value is in B. I'm sorry, this is not B7. This is A7. That's where I want to, the power I want to raise it to. And then there's no payment. And then the cash flow is in B7. And let's see what we get here. And again, I can sum this up. So this looks correct, right? If you discount only by 12% for all the cash flows, you're going to get the smallest number. That's the highest interest rate. If you discount by only 8%, you should get the highest number here because that's the lowest interest rate. And here you're using two different interest rates. Let's check. Let's see if we get the same answer here. If I made both of these 12%, then we get the same result here. Let's make both of these 8%. We get the same answer here. And let me do the case that most people do incorrectly. Let me put a space here so that you know this one isn't correct. This is the case that I found students do oftentimes. They do the following. They do the present value is equal to the rate, B $1, and the number of periods is A7. Again, no payment, and the cash flow is in B7. And they do this for the first 3 periods. In fact, let me just copy this down one more. And then what they do is they take the wrong interest rate here, and they do this. This is the case where we are discounting the first 3 cash flows by 8%, and then the last 7 by 12%. This one by 12% for all 4 periods. This one by 12% for all 5 periods. But that's not correct. You should only discount this by 12% for 2 periods, and then the first 3 periods at that lower interest rate. But the beauty of doing this in Excel is we didn't have to do all these hand calculations. This would be quite tedious to do by hand, and you can't really put it into your financial calculator because it doesn't allow you to use 2 different interest rates. You'd have to calculate the present value. There is a way you could do it. You could calculate the present value of this. It happens to be an annuity, so you could calculate the present value of this annuity in period 3 and then bring it back 2 periods. But if this were not an annuity, if these were different numbers, 100, 125, 200, 150, then you wouldn't be able to do that. It would be a lot more tedious to work out this calculation. So this is a good way to understand how you do this without having to do a lot of tedious calculations. But again, if interest rates change, if interest rates are 8% for the first 3 periods, then the first 3 periods get discounted at 8%. So the year 4 cash flow is discounted by 8% for 3 periods and only 12% for only 1 period. So that's what you have to think about. Interest rates change all the time, and in doing calculations, present value and future value, it's good to understand how you actually do this.